Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Talking Cryptocurrency podcast. I'm your host, Jason Rigden. On this episode of the show, we're talking to Mike Van Rossum of Gekko. Gekko is an open source platform for automating the trading of cryptocurrencies. This is a really cool project. If you ever thought about experimenting with automated trading, this episode is for you. But before we jump into the interview, I've got this quick message. After launching the first Seattle Blockchain Conference, Blockchain Northwest is proud to introduce the Summit Series. Blockchain Northwest returns on October 16th, 2018 with a new location, new speakers, and fresh perspectives. They've got speakers from Microsoft, MLB Crypto, Wells Fargo, GE Healthcare, Hyperledger Seattle, and more. This event will focus on scaling blockchain adoption. This event will be summit format with workshop-style discussions, dApp demos, and real use cases. This event is going to be in Bellevue, Washington, in the USA on October 16th, 2018. Buy your tickets now for early bird discounts. You gotta act fast for those discounts. If you wait too long, they'll be regular price. Go to blockchainnw.com to buy your tickets or check the show notes for the link. Once again, you gotta act fast for those early bird discounts, so go to blockchainnw.com or check the show notes for the link. Hello, and on this episode, I'm here with Mike Van Rossum of Gekko. How are you doing today?
Hey, Jason. I'm good, thanks.
So could you tell me a little bit about the problem that Gekko is trying to solve?
Sure. So Gekko tries to help people get started with automated trading. Automated trading is very hard for a lot of programmers that don't have a financial background. And it tries to help them get started, hold their hand a little bit. And on top of that, it also tries to be a community for people interested in this kind of stuff.
So then how exactly does it help solve this problem of trading?
Yeah, so Gekko is an open source tool. So it's a piece of software you can download. Because if you want to do some automated trading, you're gonna need some software like a trading bot, which is basically just an application on your computer. And Gekko is half of that already. So you can right now go ahead and download Gekko. It's free and it's open source. And it's half of the story of being a trade bot, and you only need to fill in the other half to get started.
What made you decide to make it open source instead of charging people money for it?
So Gekko was actually my learning experience in the world of finance and trading. I have a background in media programming, so I am a programmer, just not one educated in finance. So when I started looking into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, this was back in 2013, I wanted to do more on Mt. Gox, which was, at the time was the leading exchange. But because I didn't know very much about it, I just read some basic books and I checked out some stuff on YouTube and some other open source stuff. But because I wasn't really confident in my own skills, I was like, I'm going to do this fully in the open, and then hopefully other people, they will come in and give me some feedback, and then we can all figure this out together. So that's how it started back in the day. And it hasn't really changed much, well, except for the fact that right now I'm a lot more familiar with the space. So I kind of know what goes into making an automated trading system. And now it slowly evolved from my personal hobby learning tool into a bigger tool that a lot more people use to actually get started with this stuff.
And it really is open source. You actually have a real license. What was the license for it?
MIT license, which is, I think, the same as Bitcoin.
Okay. Yeah, it's surprising how often people will say something's open source, but then there's no license, so it's still just copyrighted. And what language is it written in?
So it's written in JavaScript, and it runs in node.js, as it's called. So this is like JavaScript in the backend.
And so would this be appropriate for like high frequency trading, or is it kind of a different style of trading?
It's definitely not high frequency trading. I'm definitely familiar with the problem space of high frequency trading. However, as we know it from the news and from Wall Street, like most HFT systems, they don't really exist in crypto. But there are definitely things that are more low latency sensitive, such as arbitrage and most market making nowadays. So those are definitely things that you could potentially call HFT. And unfortunately, Gekko cannot do those because those fields tend to be very competitive and very zero sum. which is hard to build an open source and an open community around because it's all about, there's only X amount of money to be made. So Gecko instead focusing on trend watching, which is a little bit like medium to longer term. So you try to build a model that tries to predict that the price will go up. And it will watch the market. And as soon as it thinks, okay, I think the price will go up in a week or so, or over the next week, I can buy now. And then in a week from now, I can sell and hopefully at a higher price. But that's more medium long term, so not HFT.
Okay. And then what coins are supported with this?
So Gecko runs on a lot of different cryptocurrency exchanges, and it automatically supports all the markets on these exchanges. So just because it supports Binance means it supports hundreds of coins. But it also supports other big exchanges, like so Bitfinex is a big one, GDEX, Bitstamp. GDEX is now called Coinbase Pro, by the way. Yeah, there's a list of exchanges.
So how do you build these algorithms?
Yeah, so what Gecko does, so as I said, Gecko is already half of the story of what you need if you want to have such a system. So Gecko will take care of automatically talking to different exchanges. So all these exchanges, they have APIs, and Gecko is able to consume a few different ones so that you don't have to worry about that. So the only thing you as a user that wants to create your own trading bot, what you need to do is you need to come up and script your own little strategy. Which is only the core, like the heart of a trading system. Like it's also called the alpha or the brain, so to say. And your little script, what it does, it gets normalized market data. So it doesn't matter which exchange you use, whether you use Binance or Bitstamp or Bitfinex, it's going to normalize all that data into one specific format and give that to your little strategy script. And then your strategy script can look at that data, evaluate it over time, and also ask Gecko to calculate indicators. So indicators are very often used when trying to predict trends. For everyone who's a day trader, you're probably familiar with a lot of these technical analysis indicators such as MACD or RSI, which are simple mathematical formulas to try to like smooth out all the noise in the market a little bit and try to get like a slow moving average, for example. And Gecko can calculate these for you. So in your little script, you can only say, for my logic, for my price prediction logic, I am going to need a few. So you can register them, and then Gecko will calculate them for you. And you can only look at the results, and then you can do stuff like the MACD crossed over the price or over the close of the candle for the last 3 hours, and therefore I think that the price will go down and trigger an advice.
Cool. And what OSs will this run on?
So because it runs on node.js, it runs on everything that node.js supports. So usually people, if you're really serious about this, then you would probably set up a development environment with Gecko, which you would use for simulations. You would do that on your own laptop or computer. And then in production, most people run it on servers in the cloud because it's very important that you have a very fast internet connection and that it runs 24/7. So people don't like to do that on their desktops. However, I do get issue reports on GitHub from people that have problems running it on like. There was someone who installed on his phone, which is like there's not really like a smartphone app for Gecko, but someone installed Linux on his Google Pixel, and he was able to compile Gecko. And a lot of people do it on Raspberry Pis and stuff like that, like embedded devices. It runs on basically everything.
So can I run simulations? I don't necessarily have to be trading with real money at first. If I'm just kind of learning, I could do simulated trades.
Yes, most definitely. And this is actually very important when you're working with this stuff, because you definitely don't want to, if you're still not sure about things and still trying it out, you don't want to give it a lot of money to play with. And that's actually the strength of Gecko, I think. So Gecko comes with 2 simulation modes. One is called backtesting. And backtesting means that you run an historical simulation. So you have your strategy, and then you ask Gecko, okay, run the strategy over the last month of data on, for example, Binance dollar Bitcoin market. And then Gecko will simulate everything about your strategy, and it will automatically calculate like the profits from the the trading signals that come out of that, and give out a nice little report. So that's the first mode. And the second mode is called paper trading. So this means that you can run it over the live market. So you can start it now, and then in a week from now, you can see how it would have done over the last week. But it will use play money, so fake money, so to say. So this is similar to like an online gambling platform that has like fake money, or an exchange that has a sandbox environment.
That would make people feel a lot more comfortable about playing with it. So you're not going to burn all your money just because you made some typo on the algorithm.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is actually what a lot of people do. They only use Gecko to simulate and to try things out. And then very quickly they realize that it's not as easy as people think to make money on the markets. So I have a lot of people that email me after they've been playing with Gecko for a week, only doing simulations, and they say, well, I can't figure out anything that works. So thanks a lot for the tool, but I'm not going to use it. Which for me is already great, because that means that they learned that it's hard.
So what have been some of the challenges of developing this?
Yeah, so the hardest thing for me, so it's an open source project. However, I still do the bulk of the work. So in total, let me just quickly look it up here. There have been 177 contributors. So these are other people. So 176 other people and then me who have worked on the code, but I still do the majority. And I definitely have a vision for the project. Like I have a very specific, narrow scope of what I want the project to be. And the hardest thing for me is when I get into discussions, especially with other core contributors, so other people who definitely also put a lot of time in making Gecko great, when they want to go a different direction. As it is with a lot of open source projects, like governance is very hard, as we see in the blockchain space as well, with all the forks and all the fights on Twitter.
Has anyone actually forked your project yet? I mean, like formally, where it's a whole new product?
Yes, definitely. So just to be sure on the semantics here, when you're talking about forking in a cryptocurrency sense, there are actually two different types of forking, right? You have the forking of the blockchain, and you have the forking of the software project. So the forking of the blockchain, an example would be Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, whereas a forking of the software project would be Bitcoin and Litecoin, right? So they don't share the same data, the same blockchain and the same transaction state, but they do share the same underlying code base. So yes, there have been forks of. So Gecko is not a blockchain system, so it doesn't have the first type of fork. As for the second fork, yes, definitely. There have been people at times that didn't agree with my vision of the project, and they have then forked it. So as in officially, that's a bit hard to define, but in total, I can see here that the project has been forked close to 2,500 times. But most of this is not actually people who wanted to take the project in a different direction. Most of this is people. It's a very easy download button on GitHub if you're a programmer.
Yeah. You can fork it even if you want small tweaks.
Yeah, if you want small tweaks, or if you just very easily want to just play around with it, you can click this one button and then you have it in your own account. But so as to how many people actually forked it and actually changed a lot, I'd say it's probably that happened maybe 10 times over the past 5 years.
And so what are your plans for the future for this project? It seems like there's a lot of things you could do.
Oh yes, no, it's definitely a very interesting field. The field has exploded together with the usage of Gecko. So Gecko is in this small niche of automated trading. It's getting a little bit popular, if I can say so myself. So popular actually that I've decided in the beginning of this year, which is also when the big crypto bubble was, so to say, like in December last year around Christmas, I decided to quit my job. So before that, I was programming for financial institutions. I was doing blockchain projects, but I quit that, and now I'm full time doing trading stuff. So this is working on Gecko, the open source project. This is doing my own proprietary trading, like arbitrage and market making, as well as working on an additional service for Gecko. Because a lot of people, they email me and they say, I think this Gecko is great, but it's a bit too technical for me because not everyone is able to program or script their own little strategy, right? Because that unfortunately requires writing code in JavaScript. Like it doesn't really come with the interface where you can just drag around and click however you want it. Like you actually need to sit down and script your own JavaScript, which is a high barrier for a lot of people. And more people have been emailing me like, what if I send you some money and you just give me a good strategy or something? And that's not really a direction I want to go in. So what instead I will do is I will actually make a platform which is called Gekko Plus. And it will be more of a full service for people who are not super technical. Because if you actually wanna use Gekko in production, like you need to run it on a server, as I stated before, which is very hard to set up for people that are not very technical. So I will just be hosting everything on my servers. I will set up a whole infrastructure for this in the cloud, where people can then just basically pay me a little bit every month. And then I will run everything in the cloud for them. I will give them better support as well. They don't have to write any strategies because I will be making a marketplace where other people who are able to make strategies can automatically put them on the Gekko Plus platform. And yeah, so basically to take this to the next level for everyone, not just the very technical people that are interested right now, but also consumers.
Well, it's a really cool project. I think people don't realize often how important open source was to the development of all these cryptocurrencies. It's been so foundational.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not talked about very much. And there are a lot of discussions at the moment in general open source, but also definitely in the whole blockchain space about how most of the core infrastructure that is relied on by companies, by projects, by ICO projects, by any type of business really, everything relies on this open source, and it's usually it's discarded as this thing that's not really important, or it's always going to be there in the background. We don't have to worry about it, but it's a space that people should watch better.
Yeah, I always wish we could get more funding into some of the core infrastructure stuff that's, used everywhere. Some of the web server, I remember just a couple of years ago, we had all those problems with SSL issues, and it turned out the whole project was very, very underfunded.
Oh, you mean the whole open SSL fiasco that happened a few years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. There was a, I'm not sure what the bug was at the time. Maybe it was Heartbleed. But yeah, that happens way too much in this space where there's some critical piece of software that basically the whole internet is running on, and then it's just being maintained by this one guy who gets, I don't know, like $20 a week or something in donations. But then all these big companies that make billions of dollars, they all rely on it, and then only after something really big happens, like the OpenSSL situation that we had, only then people actually look. Yeah, it's tough being an open source, but it's a passion for a lot of people, including me. So I only want to use this Gekko Plus. I don't really want to make a platform with 1 million people and then become very rich and then just like retire on some island or something. I really want to use it as a financing way to keep doing open source, because that's what I think is what the world needs, and I also like it the most myself.
So thank you so much for coming on the show today.
No problem.
I love having truly open source projects on the show. Gekko sounds awesome. If you want to learn more about Gekko, check out the show notes. I've got all the links right down there. You've been listening to Talking Cryptocurrency Podcast. My name is Jason Rigden, and I have been your host. Thank you for listening to the show. If you liked it, would you please consider giving us a rating and review on iTunes? I look forward to talking to you again soon, and have a great day.